The M1 Abrams is a third-generation American main battle tank designed by Chrysler Defense, now General Dynamics Land Systems. Conceived for modern armored ground warfare and now one of the heaviest tanks in service at nearly 68 short tons, it introduced several innovative features, including a multi-fuel turbine engine, sophisticated chob and composite armor, a computer fire control system, separate ammunition storage in a blowout compartment, and NBC protection for crew safety. Initial models of the M1 were armed with a licensed produced 105mm Royal Ordnance L7 gun, while later variants feature a licensed Rheinmetall 120mm gun. The M1 Abrams was developed from the failure of the MBT-70 project to replace the obsolescent M60 pattern. There are three main operational Abrams versions, the M1, M1A1, and M1A2, with each new iteration seeing improvements in armament, protection, and electronics. Efforts to develop an M1A3 version were first publicly disclosed in 2009. Extensive improvements have been implemented to the latest M1A2 C and D versions, such as improved composite armor, better optics, digital systems and ammunition. The Abrams was due to be replaced by the Future Combat Systems XM1202, but due to its cancellation, the U.S. military has opted to continue maintaining and operating the M1 series for the foreseeable future by upgrading with improved optics, armor and firepower. The M1 Abrams entered service in 1980 and currently serves as the main battle tank of the United States Army and Marine Corps. The export version is used by the armies of Egypt, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Australia, and Iraq. The Abrams was first used in combat in the Persian Gulf War and has seen combat in both the war in Afghanistan and Iraq War under U.S. service, while Iraqi Abrams tanks have seen action in the war against ISIS and have seen use by Saudi Arabia during the Yemeni civil war. By the late 1960s, the United States and West Germany had collaborated on development of the MBT-70 main battle tank, but the project was well over budget and affected by design issues. West Germany withdrew from the project due to costs and new difference in requirements. The United States continued development of the MBT-70 until 1971, when the program was finally cancelled, with funds and technology from the MBT-70 project redirected to the development of the M1 Abrams. As a result of the problems with the MBT-70, the U.S. Army introduced the XM803, using some technologies from the MBT-70 but removing some of the more troublesome features. This succeeded only in producing an expensive system with capabilities similar to the M60. Congress cancelled the MBT-70 in November and XM80 the 3rd of December 1971, and redistributed the funds to the XM1 Abrams, named after General Creighton Abrams. Low initial rate production of the vehicle was approved on the 7th of May 1979. In February 1982, General Dynamics Land Systems Division purchased Chrysler Defense, after Chrysler built over 1,000 M1s. The M1 Abrams was the first vehicle to adopt Chobham armor. A total of 3,273 M1 Abrams tanks were produced during 1979 and 1985, and first entered U.S. Army service in 1980. Production at the government-owned, General Dynamics Land Systems-operated Lima Army Tank Plant in Lima, Ohio, was joined by vehicles built at the Detroit Arsenal Tank Plant in Warren, Michigan from 1982 to 1996. Between 1979 and the late 1980s, over 9,000 units of the M1A1 were built. The Abrams remained untested in combat until the Persian Gulf War in 1991, during Operation Desert Storm. A total of 1,848 M1A1s were deployed to Saudi Arabia to participate in the liberation of Kuwait. The M1A1 was superior to Iraq's Soviet-era T-55 and T-62 tanks, as well as T-72 versions imported from the Soviet Union and Poland. A total of 23 M1A1s were damaged or destroyed during the war. Of the 9 Abrams tanks destroyed, 7 were destroyed by friendly fire, and 2 were purposely destroyed to prevent capture after being damaged. Some others took minor combat damage, with little effect on their operational readiness. Very few M1 tanks were hit by enemy fire and none were destroyed as a direct result of enemy fire, none of which resulted in any fatalities. During Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, some M1 IP and M1 A1s were modified locally in theater by modification work orders with additional rolled homogeneous armor plating welded on the turret front. The M1 can be equipped with mine plow and mine roller attachments. The M1 A2 was a further improvement of the M1 A1 with a commander's independent thermal view, weapon station, position navigation equipment, and a full set of controls and displays linked by a digital data bus. These upgrades also provided the M1 A2 with an improved fire control system. The M1 A2 system enhancement package added digital maps, Force 21 Battle Command Brigade and below Linux communications system capabilities for commanders, and an improved cooling system to compensate for heat generated by the additional computer systems. The M1 A2 SCP also serves as the basis for the M104 Wolverine Heavy Assault Bridge. The M1 A2 SCP V2 added common remotely operated weapon station support, color displays, better interfaces, a new operating system, better front and side armor, and an upgraded transmission for better durability. Further upgrades included depleted uranium armor for all variants, a system overhaul that returns all A1s to like-new condition, a digital enhancement package for the A1, and a commonality program to standardize parts between the U.S. Army and the Marine Corps. The development for the improved M1A3 variant has been known since 2009. Further combat was seen during 2003 when U.S. forces invaded Iraq and deposed Ba'athist Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein in the Iraq War's Operation Iraqi Freedom. During the invasion, at least 9 Abrams tanks were put out of action by fire from rocket-propelled grenades. By March 2005, approximately 80 Abrams tanks were forced out of action by enemy attacks. 63 tanks were restored, while 17 were damaged beyond repair. From August 2005 to April 2008, at least 20 tanks of this type were destroyed. Between 2010 and 2012 the U.S. supplied 140 refurbished M1A1 Abrams tanks to Iraq. In mid-2014, they saw action when the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant launched the June 2014 Northern Iraq Offensive. During 3 months, about one-third of the Iraqi army's M1 tanks had been damaged or destroyed by ISIS and some were captured by opposing forces. By December 2014, the Iraqi army only had about 40 operational Abrams left. That month, the U.S. Department of State approved the sale of another 175 Abrams to Iraq. After the start of the Saudi Arabian intervention in Yemen during the 2015 Yemeni civil war, Saudi Arabian M1A2 MBTs were deployed near the Saudi Arabian/Yemeni border. In August 2016, the U.S. approved a deal to sell up to 153 more Abrams tanks to Saudi Arabia, including 20 battle damage replacements, suggesting that some Saudi Arabian Abrams had been destroyed or severely damaged in combat in Yemen. The U.S. Army planned to end production at the Lima Army Tank Plant from 2013 to 2016 in an effort to save over $1 billion. It would be restarted in 2017 to upgrade existing tanks. General Dynamics Land Systems, which operates the factory, opposed the move, arguing that suspension of operations would increase long-term costs and reduce flexibility. Specifically, General Dynamics estimated that closing the plant would cost $380 million and restarting production would cost $1.3 billion. The Abrams main battle tank is operated by the United States Army and Marine Corps, the Australian, Egyptian, Iraqi, Kuwaiti, Saudi Arabian, and Royal Moroccan armies. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and check back for our next video.